Hey everyone, this is James from Investing and Testing. I'm doing another resume review. This time it is a slightly more experienced person than the previous ones that I've reviewed. And they specifically told me that they have an old school CV. And you can see the first thing that I always complain about is it is too long. And I'm going to say the same thing. Like he obviously, it's a he, I know him. So they obviously have a lot of experience. They've been in testing for a long time. But does someone that is looking for to hire him really need to know what he was doing all the way back here? That's the first thing that I would say. Um, I always say that your CV should be like 1 to 2 pages. He's got four, and a lot of this is from, a fair amount of time ago. 7 years is a long time. Obviously, he's been bouncing around a little bit since then. Um, you know, Potentially contracting. I'm not actually exactly sure, but there's a lot in there. I usually, or at least what I've been doing, is I've been putting my last three jobs in there, and then at the start, I've put my experience, and the rest of it is on LinkedIn if they want to find it. I usually actually include my LinkedIn. Um, they haven't. I've obviously redacted some stuff. Um, but you can see if you're applying for a role, it's great to show your experience, right? It's nice to know he's had so many roles. But at the same time, most of it is just going to be the same thing repeated. Whereas at the start, just saying how much experience you have is almost like as good as that. And then it makes it easier for me to look in on the stuff that is really important to me. Look in on his latest roles. What experience does he have? What is his latest experience? You can see that's why if you've got a template, so this is Canva, um, if you've got a template which is cleaner, it stands out far more than something like this, and it makes it much easier to highlight those really important things that you want to. I'm a big fan of editing my CV for every job that I apply for. So showing that you have just the skill set that they need, slightly broader, but like not talking about stuff that is completely irrelevant for the job. I have some finance experience. I worked with the Basel, what would you call it, regulatory framework. Um, Now I'm not going to put that in my CV unless I'm applying for a finance role where that's actually going to be useful because it's really obscure. But I see that in a lot of CVs where they put obscure things on their CV that aren't going to matter to the hiring manager. So, um, let's go through this. Quality engineer with a passion for driving quality improvements throughout the organization, including but not limited to improving test practices within testing teams. So this is good. I would talk about probably the amount of experience that you have here, like the number of years in testing. Um, I would also talk about maybe you're talking about driving quality improvements. Can you expand on like one or two? Talk about reduction in, I pretty much always talk about this, reduction in time to delivery or time to release, or number of tests that were automated, or time for testing activities. Just some of the, uh, I guess, improvements that you're happiest with, or that are your biggest accomplishments right at the start. And then that's where I'm going to first look, right? Like this is where I'm going to first look. Does he match the job that I'm looking for? Am I going to read through the rest of the CV or not? So showing right at the start that you have the skills needed, um, is, and that you've done some of the, especially if you're applying for a test management role here where they're looking to build in DevOps or to build in X, Y, or Z. Showing it right at the start rather than it just being generic is going to help me understand that you're someone that I should look at the rest of their CV. All right, some things here that Grammarly is a little bit weird with commas. This is just going to be an Oxford comma that it wants in, but it doesn't matter too much. Devised and implemented are streamlined. Yep, so just a slight grammatical error. Technical expertise. This is good. It's short and sweet. Um, Again, at this point, I have no idea how much experience you actually have in Java, right? I'm assuming that that's what you have the most because it's first on your list, but that's just me assuming it. And to be honest, if I was hiring you or looking to hire you, I would, let's say I'm looking for someone that is a real, like a senior, a test architect, right? That where we're working in Java and I really want them to have experience in Java. I'm going to have to go through all of this to work out whether you have enough experience in Java to actually do the role. And again, I don't know what jobs you're applying for, so it's sort of difficult for me to tell you. But based on the fact that you're currently a senior engineer, at the moment, a lot of people, a lot of hiring managers are looking specifically for what level of experience do they have on some of these things. Some of those, what are they called? The applicant tracking systems will specifically look for these keywords. And then if I'm looking for 5+ years experience or 10 years experience in Java for whatever reason, and I'm in HR, I might actually, potentially I would, there just needs to be something to indicate how much experience you have in some of these areas, rather than me going through this many pages. Right. So the thing with CVs, if anyone is watching this that is interesting, is for your current job, it can be future tense, or it could be essentially past tense, saying that you're looking to move on. And later jobs should really all be past tense. Some of this is a little bit weird to read from my quick look at it. Serve as both. So I think this should probably be, I serve as both, QA tech lead, organization, and product analyst for the testing tools and validating. Yeah, so this should be the functionality of the digital sport book on both. Yeah, no, that doesn't need a the, but I think there should be a the before the functionality on both desktop website and mobile app platforms. Okay, so this is a little bit confusing to me. Here you've got, present tense. Here you've got past tense, unless this was something that you were doing at that role and you led them. This is great. Reduce resource needs by 75%. Not so sure why that's capitalized. I don't think it needs to be. I think this should be rolled into one bullet point. I personally, maybe this is because it's like been a long day for me already. This is a little bit hard to read because it's quite small, and how to explain this? So if you reduce the resources by this, why not have it as one sentence? Improve testing practices, introduced automation, increasing the amount of automation by X, which led to a reduction in resources by 75%. Or are they different? Reduced resource needs by 75% for scaling out existing products. Yeah, see, I really do think that these two are the same bullet point, right? And I think that there's so much in this for a reasonably short amount of time. So it's hard, there's just a lot, right? And I think that could be one bullet point and it would make more sense rather than being two bullet points where I think that they are connected but I wasn't sure. So I'm trying to look at this completely objectively, first time, what are my thoughts? And I'm confused a little bit by this. And again, reduced, led, serve, build. You're going present tense, past tense, and it's making it harder for me to read. Build testing tools to automate testing and provide. Yeah, so this is the type of thing that I honestly don't think you need. You're showing how much expertise you have with this type of stuff, and by the fact that it's in your technical expertise, I feel like you're going to have lots of bullet points like that that aren't going to add any value to your CV, that are going to essentially make my eyes glaze over a little bit. Um, and where if you had, like, this is a big deal. This is a big deal. And it's hard for me to find. Whereas just building out automated tests, that's not a big deal. I expect you to do that in your job. And I can see that you're going to do it from this or from this. All right, what else we got? Create sprints, epics, and stories for team, carry out work, business. Yeah, so I'm going to say this probably, yeah, a couple of times. Like, I'm guessing a lot of this stuff is going to be repeated. This is good because it's somewhat modern, right? Like, still some places aren't doing their testing on AWS, so this is like a highlight. It's something where it like shows that you have skill sets that other people don't have. I know that's crazy to say that some people are still not using AWS or something similar, but that's still a thing. I still see CVs where people don't have experience with that. This is again something that, you know, talk about the uptake, talk about the number of people that you built in, how many tests they managed to build, um, because sometimes managing remote teams is something that often you need to do as, you know, as a test lead, test manager, that type of thing. Um, Actually, yeah, so that's the other thing. You've got senior test engineer, QA tech lead, um, and product analyst all for this one job. And I'm thinking that a lot of the stuff that you did here is really QA tech lead level, but I've already skipped over and seen that you're this. So it didn't even it didn't even stick in my mind that you are a tech lead here. Um, and if I had just seen like these bullet points, then I would have completely missed that you're really doing leadership stuff here. All right, skipping down because otherwise this is going to be like a 3-hour review. Integral part of Place Exchange engineering team developing and yeah, see, I don't care about this. I expect you to be part of the team. That doesn't really add any value to what I'm looking for. You've already sort of put your high level qualities up here. Um, and you're just going to end up repeating yourself a lot. And it's stuff that, do you really care that I read this? Right? Is it going to make you stand out over everyone else? Is it even showing me that you can do the current job or the job that I'm looking to hire for? I'd say no on all of those. Which integrations, including pre-integration deployment and monitoring of simulator for prime outdoor. Yeah, see, again, this is a lot of stuff related to that one specific job. And most of it won't matter to my job. Um, Hopefully that, you know, like if I'm looking to hire you. This is different. Serverless is like a keyword now. Lambda is obviously like one of the main players. AWS, all this stuff is, you know, interesting to me. Um, and like personally, I've never actually worked with serverless yet. Or I haven't worked with serverless yet, is the way that I should probably say that. I don't even, yeah, so this stuff is good and it's interesting and it's points of difference. I would like to, this is massive for me. Again, I'm just going to bold it and leave it bold this time. This is showing what you've managed to accomplish. This is showing that you're picking up new tools and skill sets, which is good, but there's nothing that you've accomplished in this section, which I would like to see you manage to do. And like it just should be the same type of stuff as this. It doesn't have to be exactly like reduce resources. It can be increased automation coverage. It can be reduced test cycles. Just anything where it's showing what you've managed to do. Um, like here, evangelize quality throughout the organization. Tell me about the uptake. Tell me about how quality improved. Um, that type of thing. I would honestly just have these three jobs and talk about your experience up the top, because otherwise, like honestly, I don't want to go through all this. Um, I know a lot of this is showing your skill set, right? Like Cucumber JVM, um, like this is all good stuff, but it's just not as useful to me. Um, and it does depend on the role that I'm hiring for, right? Like if I'm hiring you for a QE architect role or a test manager role, I want to see that you have evangelized quality. I want to see how uptake has changed. I want to see how you've changed the testing process. But you've just got so much stuff on here that is irrelevant to me that I would end up skipping over it, just like I am now. Um, so I think I'm going to end it there because otherwise this is a lot to go through. And I think that if you improve it, then I'll take a second look at it, um, and give some more experience. Oh, sorry, some more recommendations. But that's my recommendation so far. So hopefully that makes sense. Hopefully that someone else watches this and gets some value from it. This is definitely the most experienced person that I've reviewed, and it's not a bad CV. Like there are, if you've watched any of my other videos, I've reviewed some pretty interesting CVs, let's say, with some massive mistakes. This is more about how can we make sure that you are like fast tracked, or that you are like that I'm really interested in um, interviewing you, rather than I'm not going. A lot of the people that I've been looking at so far, I would just put their CV on the side. This CV I wouldn't be super excited to read because it's so long, and I'd be a little bit confused as to, especially depending on the role that you're applying for, I'd be confused as to whether you had the skill set. Like it would take me time to go through it, and that would frustrate me. But at least you wouldn't be one of the ones that I'd be like, okay, that's in the no pile. Um, and obviously a lot of experience in this CV. So yeah, hopefully this helps. Cool. This has been James from Investing in Testing. I'll talk to you guys later.